to my YouTube channel, John's Box, and to another edition of Through Learning to Service. I'm a former pupil of Park Senior High School. There are two examples of my mugshot in the 4th grade and in the 5th grade there. Over the past few months, I've been talking about various articles from this booklet. If you haven't seen the previous ones before, you wouldn't have known, but they're all available. This booklet, written by former head teacher Philip Coggin, Through Learning to Service, by the same title. And I've been selecting various articles to discuss, to look at, and to read some of those extracts. The three topics I'd like to cover today is one known as daily round, the daily round, common task, then I'll move on to the school crossing patrol, and finally I'll talk about the tuck shop. So without further ado, let's start off with the daily round, the common task. This is in the Learning to Live chapter. I wasn't quite sure exactly what the title, the daily round, refers to. It does relate to the daily goings on at the school, but more importantly to the community service between schools, working with business, and particularly the local community. And this was demonstrated throughout the existence of the school, certainly in the time I was there. So community service involved both teachers and students within and beyond the school building. I'd have to start off by mentioning something about the school council, which was established in 1967, or rather I'd need to read you what it says about the school council, so I have to get my specs on here. As you can see, I've had to have reading glasses over the last 10 years. Page 44 then. It says about the school council. Is it page 44? Well, I thought it was page 44. Indeed, it is page 44. So it says, quote, "The school council, since renamed Safety and Welfare Committee, was established in 1967. The Swindon Civic News reported, pupils at Park Senior High School have elected their own council in order to learn more about democratic procedures and to have a voice in the running of the school. The council has also been responsible for encouraging pupils to help old people living in the neighbourhood. First of its kind in Swindon, the council is composed of representatives from the different forms, a boy and a girl from each. Meetings are presided over in turn by the head boy and the head girl. Each of the members serves on one of the 6 subcommittees which deal with such things as finance, community service, social and cultural affairs, and the sports building fund." It says something about the local charity events, and it says here we have to refer to 1966. Last winter, no less than 90% of the pupils at Park School volunteered to give help where needed in clearing snow for the elderly. A number of girls regularly visit old folk and attend meetings of their branch of Swindon Old People's Welfare Committee. In addition, some of the boys have made themselves responsible for looking after gardens for old people who are no longer able to do this themselves, and it goes on and on and on. So that's the school council. So we're going on to the charity events themselves. And again, I'm going to quote from the book. The school records are full of reports that summarise in a few lines many hours of selfless, if unspectacular, service by pupils. Mr. F.C. Wiseman wrote in 1967. During the year, a wide range of community service projects have been undertaken by pupils from all year groups. These activities include wood chopping, gardening, visiting and shopping for the elderly, visits to Stratton St. Margaret Geriatric Hospital, house decorating, support for sponsored hikes, distribution of Oxfam and RNMDSF leaflets assisting EOPs, and so on and so forth, it says. Yep, so that's one example from 1967. Here's one from 1974. There are numerous individual efforts which find their way as single entries in various reports and magazines. For example, in March, Christopher Everett, 4th Form, 1974, made a solo effort, a sponsored swim of 1 mile, raising £10 for Great House Residents Fund. Great House Residents, we're referring here to Kington Langley. So there's another wonderful example of a student raising money for charity. And here is always the response from the people who were helped is gracious. One group of boys was sent to do some gardening, and on arrival the old lady told them that the state of her kitchen worried her more than the garden. Obtaining a ladder and a bucket of water, they set off on their own initiative, cleaned enough windows in other houses, enabled them to buy paint and brushes, and turned to decorate the kitchen. Only a chance visit by a member of staff to the house revealed the story. And then it goes on to say, school charity work also involved international disasters, and I'll mention a few here. There was Vietnam charity walk in 1968, which raised £55 and 15 shillings. Another for Help the Aged, which raised £21, 3 shillings and twopence. That was in 1966. That was earlier. So there was help also for the Aberfan disaster. That was collecting money for charity did have its lighter moments, and here's one which dates to 1976, namely from Sharon Carter and Nicky Waddle. I'll read it. It is funny. Warily I advanced up the path towards the unknown terror that awaited me. Suddenly, without warning, I was grabbed from behind. Ah! What had got me? The thought rushed through my mind. I felt a tight, strangling feeling about my throat. Was I to be slowly strangled to death in the dark alone? I screamed. My companion, who was across the way, came running to free me. She struggled for a few minutes with my unknown captor. I swung round to find out the form of my captor. Ah! It was the dreaded Rosebush, one of many enemies on this job. So next week it will be the dreaded Spy Dogs, by the way. So there are some more. As it actually, there's even a joke here mentioned. It says, "Sorry, but my husband's out and my little boy's eaten the envelope." "Oh, sorry to keep you waiting. I was putting my trousers on." "Not today, thank you. The dog ate it yesterday." "I see you've met the dog." So I'm not sure if that was funny. There's another effort going back to 1979 where over £100 was quickly raised to help a local 3-year-old girl to buy a bionic arm. And this was organised by head girl Kathleen Swift and head boy Francis Ravenscroft. And there, of course, was a thank you letter as well. Indeed, there were many letters of thanks here of people who were grateful from the help they received from Park School teachers and pupils. There is about 6 or 7 pages of this, and I've just mentioned a few examples. Let's now move on to the next topic, which is the school crossing patrol. Now, at the beginning of the video, you may have seen a young guy holding a lollipop stick standing in the middle of the road. Now, that footage goes back to 1976, and recently the author concerned posted those films, 2 films, on the Facebook website, the Facebook social guide. You all remember road crossing campaigns, the Green Cross Code, Stop, Look, Listen, and then it became Stop, Look, Listen, Think there. So this is taking it a little bit further because you had someone to assist you, and those were sixth form pupils of Park School. The scheme started in 1972 and was discontinued for a particular reason in 1976, and I'll tell you why in a moment. I'm going to read a few fragments about the school crossing patrol. There were some announcements in 1971 for men and women to man school crossing patrols, but there was no response. So then the idea was put forward to the school, and it was the geography head, Mr. Haslam, who took charge of the organisation of the patrol, and also undertook training by the police. The scheme, so I'm going to read now some of this. The scheme worked well with very few hitches from the 13th of April 1972 to the 15th of October 1976. Journalists and TV cameras were present at the inauguration of the patrol. The Swindon Evening Advertiser reported on the 13th of April. Call is still available in the Evening Advertiser archives. So it said in that particular article, first on the curbside this morning by the shopping parade in Marlow Avenue was 17-year-old Pat Donovan of Collingsmead, Eldine. Complete with familiar white coat and the red and yellow road sign, she saw children and adults cross the road during the busy rush hour. With Sergeant S. Salter of Swindon Police supervising, she gave the wait here, cross now signals to pedestrians. We are all 17 and over and were trained last term, she said. I suppose we'll go on doing it indefinitely. I am enjoying it very much. And then a further article, the Civic News for June-July 1972 gave the following account. From the outset, the proposal had the full support of the police, and with their very helpful cooperation, a scheme was prepared and agreed by the Education Committee. There were some, I would guess, small problems connected with the whole scheme. Obviously, it says here ill-fitting uniforms. I'm not sure if that was due to overweight pupils or must have been. Or wrong sizes. Wait a minute, I'm just losing it. I'm losing the plot. So how was the scheme to die? In fact, it says here that students were paid a wage of 30p an hour, but it wasn't a great inducement, and the scheme came to an end at the suggestion of the pupils themselves, and here's why. Mainly as a result of falling rolls in the primary schools, the number of children using the crossing steadily decreased almost to 0. The sixth formers quite rightly felt that it was a waste of money to continue. This view was accepted by the authorities, and the crossing was discontinued after due notice to the local parents. And there's a student called Terry Warren who wrote about his experiences here. There are pioneers of the lollipop scheme, and also mentioning some of the students who were still at it. Yep. So that's the school crossing patrol. Now you're going to see that film again, this time with sound added.
Why does everybody seem to be copying my hairstyle these days? Come on, get over, you brat. I haven't got all day. Come on, come on.
So now we're going to move on to the final topic today, which is the school tuck shop. I kind of remember it. Not much, but I think there was one even in 82, 83. Well, it was established in 1969 and supervised by maths teacher. That was Mr. Archer. And it actually churned up profits of up to £150 per year. I don't know what that is in today's money, actually, but possibly £1,000, maybe more. Somebody can do the arithmetic there, I hope. It was a good apprenticeship for pupils, some who later became managers in business and commerce, and it balanced the social responsibility with making a profit. Also, there was an attempt to reduce the waste, so it was also, let's say, green, and they were not keen on selling chewing gum. Maybe the teachers there and the parents. Proceeds were deposited or handed over to the school council to do the necessary, and I've got just information from 1969 when it first opened, and then what Mr. Archer said. So in 1969, Mr. Archer wrote, during the fall term since the school's tuck shop reopened, so it must have been opened earlier. Sales have totalled £575, 8 shillings and twopence, realising a gross profit of £84, 11 shillings and threepence. That's how they used to say it, threepence. £30 of this has been used in paying off a debt to the school fund incurred by a previous sixth form committee, and after 2 small donations. I'm not sure if I'm going to read it. I'm just wondering how the sixth form committee rung up a debt. Anyway, they were to deposit some of the money to the Midland Bank, to a deposit account. Mr. Archer actually oversaw the accountant. And then 10 years later, the same teacher was still enthusiastic about his commercial enterprise, or rather the schools. And it says, the tuck shop has been successfully staffed by various teams of senior pupils during the past 10 years. Apart from the excellent service given to the rest of the school, the staff themselves have gained excellent experience in buying and selling, contact with warehouses, methods of recording transactions, distribution of profits, initially to the minibus purchase fund, and latterly to the general school fund. I did include an episode about the school minibus fund, the school minibus, back, I think, in October. And of course it mentions the success of some of those pupils who went on to become business people. So that's, take off my specs. That's it for today. I hope if you're here, then it means you've survived all that waffle of mine. And I'll be back again next month with some more snippets of useful or useless information. And just to say thank you for being with me. Maybe if your children or grandchildren go to school, I'm sure they do if you've got grandchildren, you could mention in the comments what kind of charity events their schools do. If it's still as in the same way as was done at Park. Would be interesting to know. I'm a little bit out of touch since I don't live in the UK anymore, so maybe you could tell me. That's it then. As I mentioned, I'll be back next month. And by the way, when I finished, there'll be some other footage which was posted by the author, who gave me kind permission, by the way, to use his material in making this video. So I'm going to say goodbye to you and see you again soon in another video. Bye for now. Bye bye.